Hello and welcome. My name's James Whitcomb. I'm the candidate coach, and thank you very much for joining me today for our Job Seeker Masterclass. This is our most comprehensive workshop that you're attending today. And in this workshop, we're going to touch on all the key things that you need to do when you're looking for work. So, in some of our other workshops, we focus just on resumes or just on cover letters. We run workshops focused purely on interviews and purely on how to give great answers to interview questions. But in today's workshop, we're going to be touching on all of the topics. We're going to be going from the start to the finish of the interview process, and we're going to finish with how you can negotiate a better salary offer. So thank you very much for joining me. It's great to have you with me today. I hope you learned something from today's session. Now, if you've been looking for work for some time, it can be quite easy to, feel quite disheartened throughout the whole process. But throughout my career, and I'm a director at a recruitment agency, I've seen candidates just change one or two things in a small way. And that has made all of the difference. So throughout today's session, don't think that you need to go away and change every single part of what you're doing when you're looking for work. Maybe aim to go away with two or three key takeaways. What are the two or three things that you can take away from today's workshop to go and help you improve your chances of landing a job? Because whether you've been looking for a job for 5 minutes, 5 days, or 5 months, it's always competitive. It is always really competitive. You might have heard recently in the media, reports around the fact that unemployment is low. And that is correct. Unemployment is low. However, regardless of whether unemployment is low or unemployment is high, it is still really competitive when you are looking for work. It is still a really competitive process. And so if you can learn a couple of tips, then that's going to help you on your job seeking journey. All righty, let's get stuck into it. Just before we kick off with a little bit of workshop housekeeping, because I am broadcasting to you live today, if I do drop off the line for any reason, it doesn't happen very often, but maybe once or twice a year when I'm running a workshop, the Wi-Fi drops out or we have a power outage. If something like that happens today, please hang on the line and just wait for me to rejoin. Take lots of notes. As we're going along today and you hear something, perhaps for the first time, I'd really encourage you to make a note of it. And the way you hear something for the first time and the way you receive that message is really powerful. When you hear it for a second or a third time, you can often hear it in a slightly different way. So take notes today and take a note of how something made you feel or your response to it the first time. You can also watch a replay of today's workshop. It will be uploaded to our YouTube channel and you can watch it pretty much instantly from the conclusion of today's seminar. Now, as your presenter today, I do have my presentation screen over here on the right. So if I do look like I'm looking over there a little bit today and reading some of the content or glancing over there, that's because that's where my presentation screen is. Alrighty, so today, what are we going to learn? What am I hoping that you're going to get out of today's session? Well, today we're going to learn the following things. What you need to know before you begin your job search. We're going to look at the importance of mindset and attitude during the recruitment process and how this can have a profound impact. How an effective elevator pitch can make a big difference. We're also going to look at how to get started on creating a great resume. We'll follow that up with cover letters, why they still matter, and how you can nail it. How can you go and nail your cover letter? How to effectively call a recruiter about a job. Interview preparation. We'll spend a fair bit of time today on interview preparation, video interview preparation, and how you can give great answers to interview questions. We'll talk about effective communication throughout the recruitment process, and we'll conclude with salary negotiations. Alrighty, a little bit about me, your presenter, James Whitcomb, before we kick things off. Who am I? What's my background? And I guess why am I presenting to you today? Well, to begin with, I'm a director at Smart Recruitment. We're an award-winning recruitment agency and we have offices in Melbourne, Sydney, Brisbane, and Adelaide. I've been in recruitment since 2005. And over that time, conducted well over 3,000 interviews and over 600 group assessments. I think in that time, I've probably read over 100,000 resumes and 50,000 cover letters and placed over 1,000 people into work. And I launched the Candidate Coach, the platform that we're meeting on today, about 2 years ago, because we wanted our platform for you, the job seeker, that was accessible at any time. Not something that you had to dial in, dial out of, not something that you had to go and physically meet someone. So we kind of timed it well with COVID coming along, and we launched the Candidate Coach in December 2019. Alrighty, let's get stuck into our first lesson. What do you need to know before you begin your job search? What do you need to know? Well, first of all, planning will save you time, planning will save you effort, and planning will save you sanity. So I want you to have a think. What type of work do you actually want to do? This is often one of the first opportunities you will have when you're looking for work to actually reassess your career. Now, what a lot of people do is they finish their job for whatever reason as an accountant or as a customer service rep, and they go straight back out and apply for that exact same job. But I'd like to ask you the question, is that the type of work you want? What types of, when you were in your actual job, what were the tasks that you enjoyed the most? And what were the tasks that you enjoyed the least? I'd really encourage you to try to find a job that has those tasks you enjoyed the most. Maybe it's specializing within that field. Maybe it's doing something a little bit different. But this is actually an opportunity for you to do a little bit of an assessment on what you want to do. I'd also encourage you to think, where are your skills and experience going to be most valued? What do I mean by that? Well, put yourself in the shoes of a recruiter. Who would want to hire you the most? Who would want to hire you the quickest? A lot of the time, it is thinking about, okay, these are the skills I've got. Which company or which job is looking for these skills? Particularly if you want to find work quite quickly, think about who would be looking for you rather than what you are looking for. So we've got the chance to reassess, but if we're looking for work quite quickly, let's think about who would be looking for somebody like us. And a lot of the time, it's the competitors of your last employer, or it's within that same industry. So what I really want to tell you to do is to stop applying for roles that you're not interested in. Stop applying for roles you're not skilled for or qualified in. It is so easy on the job boards to go out and apply for 100 jobs in a day. It really, really is. Click apply, click apply, click apply. But all that is doing is probably decreasing your chances, to be honest, of getting a job, because you are wasting your time applying for jobs that you're not qualified, skilled, or interested in. All right. Number 2, researching your job market thoroughly will allow you to be a smart and targeted job seeker. What do I mean by researching your market thoroughly? Well, let me ask you a question. How many jobs are advertised at the moment in your industry? If you're looking for a customer service role, there will be thousands. If you're looking for a mechanical engineering job, there might only be one at a time. So before you rush out and start applying, and even if you're not, sit back and take a look. Because if you've only got one job being advertised that you're interested in, you better put in a really good application. Whereas if there are more opportunities available, perhaps you can be a little bit more picky with those that you are applying to. But what's really important here is that you get an understanding on the lay of the land for the jobs you want. Which recruiters advertise your jobs? So if you see one particular recruiter who has 5 different jobs you're interested in, I'd really encourage you to pick up the phone and speak with them rather than just sending off 5 different applications. And my rule is 2 jobs per day. I think you should only be applying for 2, maybe 3, but 2 jobs per day. The reason for that is, as you'll find out today, I want you to put in effort to every application. I want you to customize your resume and cover letter. I want you to research into the company and the position before you apply. So I want you to have a short list of jobs, but you can only apply for 2 every day. Now you might be thinking, oh, well, that's a bit of a waste. I'm really wanting to find work. Well, applying for 2 jobs a day is still 14 jobs a week. It's still 60 jobs a month. And when we get to that point, when we start applying for jobs for several weeks, you can lose track of what you've been applying for. And recruiters want to know that you're aware of what you've been applying for. So 2 jobs per day. Stop rushing out to apply for as many jobs as possible, and let's start approaching it more thoughtfully. Let's be more thoughtful, more discerning in our approach. Uh, and I'm not saying that, one of the things that could be hard is you might go, hey, there's so many jobs I'm interested in. I could easily apply for heaps. Well, I want you to then be a lot more thoughtful about it and say, hey, okay, yes, there's 100 jobs here you'd be happy to do, but which are the top 10 that you'd most want? And then of those top 10, which are the 2 that are the absolute standouts? And thirdly, the way you handle rejection may help you actually land a job. It sounds really silly, but you are going to get rejected a lot, and then you're going to get rejected some more. And some of you attending the workshop today might have been rejected for 6 to 12 months. You might have made hundreds of applications. It is really hard to maintain a positive outlook when that's the case. But if you can do so, it will allow you to move from one application to the next quite easily. Alrighty. How are you feeling today? Let me ask you a question. If you had to pick from this question, and there's a bit of a reason behind it, is I want to know, same question again, how do you present yourself as a job seeker? So again, you've got the same list of emojis here. But when you're writing your resume, when you're writing your cover letter, when you're speaking to someone on the phone via Zoom or face to face, how do you actually present yourself as a job seeker? How do you present yourself as a job seeker? Because we can actually tell. We can sometimes tell in the tone of your resume and cover letter. We can certainly tell by the tone of your voice. We can tell by the body language when you're interviewing somebody. How you present yourself as a job seeker makes a huge difference. So, what you want to have is a job winning attitude and a job winning mindset. I want to share a quote with you from well known recruiter Ryan Biggs. And Ryan writes, I will always go for someone with a fantastic attitude that may need a little bit of development over somebody I will always go for someone with a fantastic attitude that may need a little bit of development over someone who has all of the skill but a bad attitude. So what he's saying there is you can have all the skill. You can be the most qualified candidate. But if you've got a bad attitude, guess what? You are not going to get the job. And likewise, even if you don't have all of the skill, even if you don't have all the qualifications, take some enthusiasm from the fact that, hey, if you present with a great attitude, and I'll show you some of the things today you can do to show great attitude, then your chances are probably better than you think. You can actually beat candidates who've got more skills and more qualifications if your attitude is better than theirs. All right. So let me ask you this question then. Put yourself in the shoes of a recruiter. How do we actually show it? Well, first of all, you can choose to be positive. You can actually choose. It's your choice. Before you pick up the telephone, before you walk into a room, you can choose what attitude you are bringing to that room. So before you apply, think, I'm going to be positive. I'm going to put in my best application here today. I'm going to do a really good job. Before a phone interview, just remind yourself, okay, you might have had a really bad day, but just think, okay, I need to take a breath. I need to take a moment, and I need to show the very best version of myself here. I need to show the very best version of myself here, and not, let my bad morning come across on the phone. And certainly before a face-to-face interview, you need to go in and present yourself well presented, well dressed with positive body language. And then think, how do I want to be remembered? You will walk out of the room. You will walk out of the room. When you walk out of the room, what do you hope the person that you've met with remembers about you? Have a think and think about how you can work that backwards. Follow up with the recruiter. So, a lot of people will send in an application, they'll have a phone call, they'll even have a face to face interview, and then they will wait to hear back from the recruiter and think that's the right thing to do. There's nothing wrong with doing that, but if you want to show positive attitude, follow up. Make a phone call a couple of days, certainly a week later. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Show the recruiter that you are really keen on this job, that you're really interested and that you're positive and enthusiastic. So we want to avoid being negative. We want to avoid whinging. We want to avoid complaining. We want to avoid arguing. And we want to avoid being unresponsive. And that final one happens quite a lot. If you've missed a call, call back quickly. If you've got a voicemail, get back in touch quickly. If the recruiters ask you to send something through, send it through quickly. This is how we can show having a great attitude. All right. I want you to grab a pen and paper. I'm going to give you a moment to do this. Grab a pen and paper or open up a new window on your computer or your notepad on your iPhone. I want you to write down the following. Now, I don't want you to actually answer them because that will take too long, but I want you to write down the following. 1, name. So write down 1 name. Write down 2, overview of your work history. Write down 3, your top 3 skills. And write down 4, what is the type of work that you are looking for. So what I'm asking you to do here is create an elevator pitch. Now, some of you might be familiar with an elevator pitch, but for those of you who aren't, an elevator pitch is a brief but persuasive statement. And a brief but it's commonly used in sales, most commonly used in sales. A brief but persuasive speech or statement. So why would we want this when we're looking for work? When might having an elevator pitch come in handy? Well, the most common interview question in the world is tell me a little bit about yourself. And the best answer to tell me a little bit about yourself is your elevator pitch. So, how do we create a really good elevator pitch? So again, it's your name. Straightforward with name. Number 2, it's an overview of your work history. So when I say overview, that's what I mean. It's not a full detailed rundown. We need to go through our whole elevator pitch in about 30 to 60 seconds. So an overview of your work history. Number 3, it's your top 3 skills. Your top 3 skills. Now, this might change a little bit depending on who your audience is. So let's say you're happy to find administration work, but you'd also be happy to find customer service work. And you've potentially done both. So the skills that you might mention here for each one would be different. I'd also encourage you with your top 3 skills to make at least 2 of them what we'd call hard skills. So a lot of people say, I've got good communication, I'm a hard worker, and I'm always on time. Those things are fine, but they're not measurable. Anybody can say them, and they're not hard skills. So if you were going for an administration role, you might say that one of your top 3 skills is your typing speed is 80 words per minute at 95% accuracy. So include at least 2 hard skills, depending on your work and the type of work you're looking for. What is the type of work that you are actually looking for at the moment? So I'm going to show you one that I've prepared earlier. I don't want you to be intimidated by this in any way, though, because as I said, I've been in recruitment since 2005, and I coach people on how to write a really great elevator pitch. So my elevator pitch should be really good. All right, here it is. If I was looking for work at the moment, this would be. Yes, this is a really good elevator pitch because I've practiced it many times. So what I want you to do is to go away and create your elevator pitch. Go away and create it. Write down your answer to those 4 things and then rewrite it several times until you get it to the point where it's as good as it can be. Till it's as good as it can be, till you're really happy with it. I didn't just create my elevator pitch on the first attempt. I rewrote it several times. Once you've got to the point that you're really happy with it, I want you to have several copies. I want you to have a copy saved on your phone. I want you to have a copy stuck on the fridge or on the kitchen bench, maybe a copy printed out in your handbag. The reason being, if someone calls you about a job and says, look, just tell me a bit about yourself to start off with, you're going to think, oh, that's my elevator pitch. And then you're going to think, what is it again? And if it's on the kitchen bench in front of you and you've just got to look down, it can get you started and off you go. And then finally use it. You create your elevator pitch so you can use it. It is a great way. It is an absolutely fantastic way, because when we say to candidates, tell me a bit about yourself, a lot of candidates go, would you like to know about my work, or would you like to know about me outside of work, or a bit about myself? I've been working in finance for 7 years. And it is a really friendly question in some ways, and it's a bit of an icebreaker, but don't drop your guard. This is your first opportunity to create a great impression. And if you come with a great first impression and give a really good elevator pitch type answer, the recruiter's impressed very, very quickly. And you're up to this level. Whereas if you have a bad first answer, you're down here. And whether you start down here or whether you start up here, it's much more likely that's where you're going to stay wherever you begin. So begin up here, and it's easier to stay up here. Begin down here in your interview or your first impression, and it's really hard for you to get back up there. Alrighty, I've got a question for you. How long do you think a recruiter spends reading your resume? How long? You have spent hours, days, weeks, months, years. Some people's resumes have evolved over time. It might have started 10 years ago, 15 years ago, and then you add each job to your resume. So it's kind of become this document that you work on all the time. You've spent a lot of time on it. How long do you actually think recruiters spend reading your resume? Well, I'm going to give you the answer right now. 7 seconds. Eye tracking study shows that recruiters look at resume for 7 seconds. I've got to tell you, that's not a great stat, is it? That stat is certainly not great for job seekers, and it's a stat I'm probably a little bit embarrassed about as a recruiter. I don't think that's something that we can be proud of. It is important for me to point out that 7 seconds doesn't mean that they stop reading at 7 seconds, but it's at the 7-second mark where the recruiter decides whether or not to keep reading your resume. At 7 seconds, they decide whether or not to keep reading your resume or whether they're going to move on. So we've got a very short period of time here where we really want to impress the recruiter. So we can complain all as much as we like about this stat, but it's not going to change it. So we need to know how to make our resume stand out in 7 seconds. So let's look at this article in a little bit more detail and see what we can learn. So I'm going to read the second 2 dot points here. Resumes that succeeded in capturing the recruiter's attention featured simple layouts with clear section and heading titles. Resumes organized by E or F pattern. I want you to think about a piece of paper with a big capital E or a big capital F. So we've got stuff coming across and then stuff going down the side coming across. They're the ones that did well, especially when they utilize bold titles and bulleted accomplishments. So that paragraph tells us what we need to do. Simple layouts. We need white space, we need headings, and we need bullets. Resumes did not fare well when they're hindered by cluttered layouts. A lack of white space on the page, multiple columns and long sentences. A lack of section or job headers also turned off recruiters, as did text that didn't flow or draw the eye down the page. So your resume, you want to be rich with information, but we need to leave white space. We also need to have headers. We don't want it to be too cluttered, and we want to use dot points and not just big slabs of text. So it's not a great stat, but we can all learn something from it. Okay, I'm going to give you a little bit of an insight into effective resume writing. Today, we're not going to go through a whole resume from start to finish. That's a separate workshop that we run. Keep your eye out for that one. But I'm going to show you how you can get started on it. So, first of all, what is your resume? Well, your resume is a factual account of your employment and study history. So, when we say factual because it has dates, it has times, it has locations, it has job titles, it has other people's names, it has educational qualifications in educational institutions. So, it's basically a whole bunch of facts. But it also needs to highlight your skills and abilities, and it needs to sell you. It needs to sell you. This is my biggest coaching point on resumes, and probably my biggest coaching point overall, is that your resume is a sales document. It needs to promote you. It I want you to imagine a billboard. That billboard is trying to sell something. They point out the best features. Your resume is the same. Your resume needs to sell you. It needs to promote you. It needs to say to an employer, look at me, buy me. It needs to have the very best aspects of you on it. Now, recently, my brother sold his property, and they spent a lot of time, getting ready for the sale of the property, and they had a professional photographer came in. And when I looked at the photos of his property, I thought, wow, look at that photo. The photographer has done an amazing job here in capturing the property at its absolute best, showing that, using the camera in the perfect position to capture it at its best. So the photographer didn't do anything false there. There was no lies, there was no trickery, but he took photos from the best positions to really highlight and sell the property. That's what your resume needs to do. Your resume needs to highlight your best skills and your best experience, your best achievement, and your best education. It needs to promote how good you are. It needs to show the very best parts of you, not the worst, the very best parts of you in a way that is easy, as we've seen. It needs to be easy for somebody to see. So, my question is, I want you to have a think about it. Does your resume sell you? Do you think your resume is selling you at the moment? Or is your resume a very boring, dry academic document in chronological order that is just a history of what you've done? So, what I want to show you now, again, we can't go through a whole resume today because that would take us nearly the whole workshop, but I want to show you how you can sell your experience, because I think selling your experience, and in particular your achievements, which is what we're going to look at now, is the very best way. This is the very best way for you to sell yourself. So I met with this candidate. So I'm going to share a story with you now of a candidate I met a number of years ago when I was recruiting for a sales role. Now, this candidate got through to interview because she'd been working in sales for a number of years. And that was the main reason why she got through. But this is how she described her experience on her resume. So she was a sales representative from August 2013 to July 2016. So a month short of 3 years. She was a salesperson for the company for 3 years. She sold goods and traveled to meet customers and keep them happy. That's how she described her job on her resume. Now, as a sales recruiter, if you've done 3 years as a sales rep, I'll give you a call, because I know that, that's a good tenure. A lot of people don't last very long in sales. But when I sat down and I met with this candidate and she told me what she'd really done, I was completely blown away. Even though she was a salesperson, she had massively undersold herself on her resume. So I worked with her, and this is what we changed her resume to. So this is the before, and this is the after. So same person, same job. This is it described in a better way. So what you'll see, first of all, we've got 2 bold headings. So we've separated responsibilities from achievements. We've got lots of dot points, short sentences that are easy to read. Now, I've used 9 dot points for responsibilities here. In 2022, that's probably going to be too many. I would probably go more with 6 or 7. But we've separated responsibilities from achievements. Now, I won't read through all those responsibilities. You can cast your eye down there now. But what I really like about this is, by reading the way we've put these responsibilities, it's easy to get an understanding of exactly what she did. Things like this third last dot point here: attend at least 3 new business appointments per day. Salespeople often attend business appointments, but what I really like here is we've used the number 3 per day. 15 per week. That means 60 per month. I've got a really good understanding there of how many appointments she went to. Whereas if she just attends new business appointments, I don't know whether you're doing one an hour, one a day, one a week, one a month, one a quarter. But it's the achievements part here where we really sell ourselves, where we really sell our experience is under the achievements. So this person had been salesperson of the year in 2014, exceeding their sales budget by 21%. Now, you're not going to believe this, but for being salesperson of the year in 2014, this candidate was given a brand new car. She was given a brand new car for being salesperson of the year. She's the only person that I've interviewed has told me that they have won a car for being a salesperson. That is how good she was at selling. Now, on her previous version of her resume, though, she didn't have this listed. And she's got her other achievements listed there. But the point is, if you don't have it on your resume, the recruiter will never know. You've got to sell yourself. You have got to sell yourself. Now, you might be sitting there thinking, James, look, it's all well and good for sales. Sales, for example, we've got targets, we've got achievements. I've only worked in customer service, so maybe I've only worked in a library. So if you're struggling to think of achievements, let me ask you a question. What were you doing when you ended the job? What tasks, what responsibilities, what duties did you have when you ended the job that you didn't have when you started? Because if you've been asked to do extra duties and responsibilities, you could list them as an achievement. Maybe you've been asked to help train and onboard people. List that as an achievement. Maybe you've been given the keys to lock up the library at the end of the day. You're able to put the security alarm on and do those types of things. If you weren't doing those at the start and you're doing those now, there's an achievement. Maybe all you can think of is, hey, I often get asked to cover people's shifts. Put that down. Put down at least 2 or 3 things. In some ways, it's about showing pride and showing understanding of doing a good job. The other thing I would like to share with you in terms of resumes is how that it's okay to make your resume visually appealing. So we're going to go to a website now called Canva, canva.com. I use a paid version, but what I'm going to show you now is free. And if you go into Canva and type in resume or resume template, what you'll see load up on the screen now is a whole, I'll get rid of my camera. canva.com. canva.com. You can do most of this on a free account. All right. So my summary for you for resumes is sell your skills, sell your achievements and your experience, but your achievements are the main one. Sell, 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 sell. Make your resume easy to read. And this can be really hard because for a lot of people, we're thinking, oh, how do we cram, so much, I've got so much that I want to get onto my resume. But you don't need to get everything onto your resume. Less is more, and it's the recruiter's role, to ask questions about, filling in the gaps. It should be it should be visually appealing, and it's okay to be bold. Okay, it's okay to be bold and use something like Canva, and it must be tailored for every job. This is so important. All right, this is so important. If you apply for 5 jobs a week, even if they are all the same job title, let's say customer service for argument's sake, they are still for different organizations. The jobs are still slightly different. You can only list 6 dot points, and 2 achievements. Make sure you are listing the things that are relevant to the job. Read the advertisement. What they are asking for in the first 2 or 3 dot points in particular is really important. Make sure you have that on your resume. Make sure you have that on your resume. Alrighty. We're going to move now from resumes to cover letters. Cover letters. And I've got a question for you. I want you to answer this in your mind. Are you submitting a cover letter with every application? Because some recruiters read cover letters before they read the resume. Now, a lot of people enjoy saying, hey, cover letters are dead. I've been hearing the phrase cover letters are dead since I joined recruitment in 2005. Guess what? Cover letters are not dead. They never died. They're still here. At Smart Recruitment, like most places, you can still submit one with every single application. People hate writing cover letters. Not all recruiters read them. I'll be honest there, not everybody reads them. But some recruiters will read them first. Your problem is you don't know who you're sending your resume to. So unless the person you are sending your resume to says, do not send a cover letter, I will not read it, you must submit a cover letter. You can only submit 2 things as a job seeker, your resume and your cover letter. So why would you skip on one? Skipping on one is a huge risk, and I think it's a huge mistake. All right, so let's talk about actually what a cover letter is. First of all, it's very different language to a resume. It's a letter. Think about how you write a letter. You write a letter to somebody. We don't write letters very often anymore, but maybe think even about an email. You write it to somebody. Even if you don't know their name, you are writing your cover letter to someone. So we personalize it. We really need to have done some research here. We should be doing research before we apply for every job, and we can then use that research in our cover letter. And the purpose of this is to show the person reading the cover letter that we've done some research. It sounds like a bit of a game, but we want them to know we've done some research. And we want to include that information in terms of what we've learned on our cover letter. It's only ever 1 page long. The only reason your cover letter would be more than 1 page long is if you are asked to address a selection criteria and it's like 10 points and you're like, can't fit into 1 page. Unless that's the case, your cover letter should only ever be 1 page long. We need to proofread it multiple times. A lot of people proofread for spelling mistakes and they catch all the spelling mistakes. But what is really hard to catch in your own work in particular is grammatical errors. A lot of people don't catch their own grammatical errors. So proofread multiple times and catch those grammatical errors. So stop submitting the same cover letter for every single vacancy. We need to tailor it. All right. I'm going to show you what a good cover letter looks like. This is a great template that you can go away and copy and paste. So it has 4 simple paragraphs. That's it. 4 simple paragraphs. And paragraph 1 and paragraph 4 take 1 minute each. So paragraph 1, we just want to address the role in the company that we're applying to. 2 sentences should be enough. So here we're saying, Dear James, please find attached my resume for the accounts coordinator position at Smart Recruitment. If you have done that, name, job title, company title, you're probably already into the top 25% of cover letters. Because most cover letters I receive say, Dear Sir or Madam. Now, on my cover letters, my name is always there. On my cover letters. On my job advertisement, my name is always there. But even if my name is not there, the company and the title is there. So personalize it. The point of this is to show the recruiter you've put in a lot of effort. Paragraph 2, mention 2 or 3 things that you know about the organization or you know about the vacancy. So we need to do some research here. And again, the whole point of paragraph 2 is to show the person reading your cover letter that you've done some research. Because everyone else's cover letters are rubbish. If yours is really good and stands out, this could be the one thing that you can do that can make a huge difference. Then paragraph 3, we're going to focus on us. So paragraph 2 is all about the company and the job. Paragraph 3 is on us. We're going to mention your key skills or experience relevant to the position. Again, it's 2, maybe 3 things. And this is why we have to tailor our cover letters, because we can only pick 2 or 3 things here. We need to pick 2 or 3 things that are really relevant to the job that we're applying to and the company. Paragraph 4 is a brief sign off. Thanks very much for reading my cover letter. I hope to hear back from you soon. So I'll give you a moment to take a screenshot of that. What I've done with this formula, and it's taken me many years to develop, is I wanted to develop a formula that allows people to easily replicate a cover letter. So I think paragraph 1 and 4, it's really straightforward. Paragraph 2 and 3, you can probably do them both in 10 minutes. I think you can do them both in 10 minutes, but you can spend a lot longer and be more impressive. But I wanted to create a formula or a template that is easily replicatable so that you can customize every cover letter without too much hard work. All right, so here's an example using my formula. This is a made-up job and company. Dear Rupert, I'm writing to you as an enthusiastic applicant for the marketing coordinator role at Duke Industries. Paragraph 1, up the top here, name, company name, job title. Paragraph 2, we're talking about what we've learned on the company. We've done some research. Paragraph 3, we've picked 2 or 3 things we've done relevant to the job. Whoops. And paragraph 4, a brief conclusion. It looks really good. It looks really professional. It looks like you've put in a lot of effort on this cover letter. Now, here's the same cover letter in a slightly different template. So the template that I have own personal brand. Alrighty, we've come so far. Let's go a little bit of a recap on today. We've talked about researching and finding the right role. We've gone on how we can create a great elevator pitch. We've done that. Maybe we've had a phone call even. We've been able to put our elevator pitch into practice. We've tailored our cover letter. So you found those 2 jobs that you're going to apply for. You've done some research. You've tailored your cover letter to the job. You've created your awesome cover letter as well, and you've tailored that. So you've done a lot of work so far. You've clicked apply and you've sent your resume off. Now what? Now what are you doing? Tomorrow, what are you doing? What's happening with this application? What do you need to do? It's been 1 day now. It's been 2 days. It's been 3. It's been 5. You haven't heard. What should you do? Well, I think you should pick up the phone and make a call. Pick up the phone and make a call within 24 hours of applying. I know what you're thinking. Are you mad, James? Picking up the phone and calling somebody about a job they've got advertising is really scary. It can be really intimidating. But I'm not mad, and you need to be brave. Particularly if you've been looking for work for some time, I would really encourage you to make a well planned and organized phone call. And I'm going to show you how to do it. I want you to consider the following scenario. When I'm in my recruitment office in Melbourne and I sit down and I've got 10 or 12 recruiters around me, they're busy on the phone, they're doing phone interviews, they're reading resumes, they're walking in and out of face to face interviews or Zoom interviews. They've got lots of resumes to read. If the phone rings and they pick it up and say hello, and it's you on the phone, even though they've got 100 resumes to read, guess what? We're speaking with you now. And if you sound organized and if you've got some really good questions, I might bring up your resume while we're speaking. So I'm not looking at those 100 resumes anymore. I'm looking at your resume. And what you're actually doing here is if you think everyone's getting 7 seconds of resume exposure, but if you can speak to the person on the phone, you might get 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 20 minutes. You are significantly increasing your exposure. Now, exposure doesn't mean you're going to get a job interview or get a job. What it's going to mean, though, is you get a lot more consideration. And it also means that assumptions or incorrect assumptions might not be made. So I'm not mad, and I'd really encourage you to be brave. But what we cannot do is make a bad phone call because our exposure then will have a bad outcome. So this is what we need to do. How do we effectively call up a recruiter about a job? So first of all, we need to know the name of the person we're wanting to speak to. And we need to expect them to answer the phone. This sounds really silly, but a lot of people say, I never can get a recruiter on the phone. And when they do answer, the candidate's like, sound organized. Think about your first impression. If they don't answer the phone, the first call, leave a voicemail. What I would then encourage you to do is to continue to call back once or twice a day, but only ever leave one voicemail. Only ever leave one voicemail. Ideally, you're just hoping to catch them when they're sitting at the desk and they pick up the phone. Number 2, we need everything printed out in front of us. So we want resume, cover letter, job advertisement, elevator pitch. We want it all laid out in front of us. The reason being is you're going to feel nervous. And when the recruiter asks you a question and you're not really sure, if you can just look down and you can see your elevator pitch or you can see some of your skills written on your resume, it's really going to help you. You want to be familiar with the position, familiar with the advertisement. You need to have done your research. So we've talked about this with your resume and your cover letter. You need to have done your research, okay? And you want to have those notes in front of you as well. You want to be clear to the recruiter with which role you're referring to. Some recruiters might be sitting over 50 different vacancies, from recruiting a CEO to a marketing manager to a sales operations person to a data analyst to a chemical engineer to a mechanical engineer, a Java pro, recruiting all these jobs. So you need to let the recruiter know early on, I'm calling up to discuss the occupational safety vacancy. Let them know early on. Now, this is the most important point. Have 2 or 3 questions prepared and written down in front of you and practice them before you call. Actually, I'm going to change that. I'd say have 5 questions written down just in case 2 or 3 of them get answered and you don't get to ask them. The purpose of these questions, though, is to do 2 things. 1, to help you show off, sell yourself, but 2, to show you've done a lot of research. So go onto the company website, go onto their careers page, go onto their social media, look through the annual report, write down 5 questions. And so when you're on the phone and you call up and the recruiter says, hello, it's James speaking, you can say, hi, James, I've just applied for the occupational safety role. I've got a couple of questions. Do you mind me asking? And the recruiter will probably say, sure, what are your questions? Now, if you ask a couple of great questions here, I guarantee you the recruiter is going to go, oh, that's a really good question. They're thinking, this candidate's done their research. I'd actually know the answer. This candidate's really done some research into the job and the position. They then start thinking of you very, very differently. They start thinking of you very highly, very quickly, just because you've asked a couple of well prepared questions. Keep the call brief, but be prepared that it could go for longer. It might go into a full phone interview, or that you might catch the recruiter when they've literally got another appointment in 2 minutes' time. And finally, if you're not feeling confident, then practice. Like with interviewing, practice makes perfect. Practice makes perfect. I think, as the candidate coach, this is the biggest difference that you can make if you're struggling to get to interview stage, is to call up effectively in a prepared way and ask a couple of great questions. Give it a go. You'll need some patience. You'll need some persistence. It might take a lot of calls to get through, but I guarantee you, if you do, and if you ask a couple of good questions, you will increase your chances of getting to interview. So, what's with all the research? I'm asking you to do a lot of research at the moment. I want to share a quote with of your application. So, you are competing against candidates who will do a lot of research. You need to do research just like they do. So, when do we research? Well, even before applying, we need to go to organizational websites, careers pages, Google the organizations. But for bonus points, see if you can find something in the news. See if you can find something that's topical, particularly if it's a really large organization. You might be able to find something that's really topical on them at the moment. I am always impressed when a candidate can tell me something or ask me something about the company I'm recruiting for that I don't know. And then let's research the position. So we really need to read and understand the job advertisement. And if we've been asked for an interview, ask for the position description and read and understand that. Try to understand where the position fits into the structure of the organization and how it adds value. This will really help you stand out. All right. Let's talk about interviews now. So let's take a moment again to pause. Let's go back to the start. We've done the research to find the jobs. We've applied for 2 jobs per day. We're tailoring our resume and our cover letter before each application. We've followed up with a phone call, and guess what? That phone call has turned into being invited in for an interview. So again, it's building blocks here. It's going through the process, but it can feel like a lot of work, and we're only at the interview stage. So we need to keep going. So how are we going to present ourselves at interview? Here's my emoji board again. You probably know the answer by now, but we need to present the very best version of ourselves when we're going to interview. So we don't want to turn up for interview and show ourselves at 50%. We don't want to turn up for interview and go, even if we're feeling rubbish, we've had a bad morning, we've had a fight with our partner, we're upset about something, we've got to leave that all behind just while we're in the interview room. Because if you show yourself at 50%, you're not going to get the job. And the recruiter can only base their decision on you at 50%. But if you can show yourself as close to 100% as possible, then you are giving yourself the best chance of getting the job. So, how do we actually present the very best version of ourselves? Well, first of all, practice is absolutely key here. Practice, 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 because that helps to give you confidence. We need to mentally prepare for what is going to happen. We need to tell ourselves that we're going to get nervous and that getting nervous is okay. And we need to give ourselves plenty of time. Give ourselves plenty of time. The one thing that ruins everybody's plans when it comes to performing well at interview is running late or running just on time, and it will stress you out big time. Dealing with nerves and anxiety at interview. This is a really big one. So I'm actually going to share a little video with you here from a workplace psychologist on how you can deal with nerves and anxiety at interview. Thanks for joining us at the Candidate Coach, Dr. Barker. Tell us a bit about your background and the type of work you do.
I am Dr. Sarah Barker. I'm a clinical psychologist. I've worked in workplace mental health with Black Dog Institute for the past 7 years.
Dr. Barker, why is it common to feel nerves when going for a job interview?
We commonly feel nervous, and I would say most people feel nervous when going for a job interview because we feel a lot depends on it and that we're going to be evaluated as well. So nerves are a very, very common response. It's really important to remember that the person who's doing the recruiting also feels nervous as well, because they want to get the right person, and they're also aware that they're expecting people to come in feeling nervous as well. They know that that's a common human experience.
What can we do before the interview to help best prepare so that we're not overcome by feelings of nerves and anxiety?
To best prepare ourselves to avoid some of those feelings of anxiety and nerves before an interview, firstly is to accept, I think, that they're going to be there. And actually, a few nerves are actually helpful. They help us give our best performance, give our best answers, think the best on the spot. So accepting that there's going to be a level of nerves is okay. But I think also probably an hour beforehand or the morning before the interview, really practicing some breathing strategies, whichever is your favourite breathing strategy, to calm those nerves down, calm the system down, calm the breath down, and allow your body to relax as much as it can into the interview. I also think preparing answers and having a practice in front of the mirror of some likely answers that are going to be, or likely responses to questions that are going to be asked can be very, very reassuring, because often the questions we predict are there. And even on the internet, there are usually lots of questions for any job that are typical questions that you can then prepare a brief response reflecting on your experience beforehand. So it's not such a test in the moment then, because you've got some preparation behind you. The other thing I think too is reminding yourself, I've got this far and this is a good thing. And, they're interested in getting to know me. I'm also interested in getting to know them, and concentrate on the relationship too and enjoy the relationship as much as you can. They're usually going to try and put you at ease so that they can see how you respond as well.
And what can we do during the interview if we feel a bout of nerves or anxiety coming on?
It's very common for us to suddenly feel overwhelmed in the moment in an interview. If that happens, take some deep breaths. It's okay to buy some time. It's okay. And also, when we take deep breaths in an interview, it's only usually us that notice. Okay, so taking some deep breaths can really be helpful. And even saying to the interviewer, could I just take a moment here just to pause and gather my thoughts, and then just breathe. Okay, and then when you're ready, come back and say, I'm ready to continue on. And that's a fine way to manage nerves during an interview. One tip that I think is a really useful one is to have a practice of your responses to the likely questions in front of the mirror. Something you might notice is that the questions you're feeling more confident about, you'll smile more, you'll be more relaxed, you'll, strut your stuff a little bit as you respond. You'll notice too, the questions you feel less confident about, you might stop smiling or your face might change. Those questions are the ones you need to practice a little bit more at, and remind yourself of your confidence with that, or prepare your answer so that you do feel more confident, because your face will actually tell you in the mirror, and that can be good preparation for the actual interview of knowing where to where to focus on in feeling more strong in your responses. In summary, nerves and anxiety for interviews can be partially managed and avoided by preparing beforehand, using our breathing exercises and techniques to reduce stress so we're going in feeling calmer, and also during the interview by practicing those same skills. Often when we're nervous, we stop breathing or we breathe very shallowly. So if we start noticing ourselves doing that, really being conscious of our breath and paying attention to it and allowing that to carry us through.
Thanks for watching today, and we hope this has helped you best prepare for your next job interview. Good luck. Alrighty, hopefully that video from Dr. Sarah Barker and those tips can be really practical if you really do struggle. All right, let's pretend we've got a job interview tomorrow now. Let's pretend we've got a job interview tomorrow. What do we need to do? Because the preparation certainly starts well more than a day before. But if we had a job interview tomorrow at 10 a.m., what do we need to do on the day of the interview? So there's several things we need to do. We need to make sure we know how we're going to get there. As I said before, the best plans, the best preparation will all be wasted if you arrive late or even if you're rushing to get there on time, because you're going to feel stressed and anxious. We want to make sure that our clothes are ready the day before, not waking up in the morning and doing it that day, because what if you pull out the shirt or the pants that you're planning to wear and you discover they've got a coffee stain on them, or they're ripped, or the iron's not working? Get your clothes ready the day before. Likewise with the shoes, and likewise with printing everything. Again, if you've been asked to bring something along that you need to print out, get it done the day before, and do any assessments that you need to do as well. So if you've been asked to do a test, do it a day or two before, and have a practice. Have a practice of your interview answers. So the aim here really is that when you go to bed the night before your interview, everything's ready. It's going to be hard for you to have a good night's sleep probably the night before the interview. But if you're lying there thinking, I've got to find my shirt, I've got to find my dress pants, I've got to polish my shoes. Actually, where's the shoe polish? You're not going to be able to settle. At least if you do it all the day before, you can hopefully give yourself the best chance of having a good night's sleep, and you are prepared. All right, beep, beep, beep. The alarm's gone off. It's the morning of the interview. You probably haven't had a great sleep, but you're up now. What do we need to do that day? Well, really important is that we need to actually start off by having breakfast. You need a full stomach to give you energy, to get your blood sugar levels going. You also need to have a full stomach, because sometimes when I interview people in the morning, if they skipped breakfast, I can smell it on their breath, which is really unpleasant. We need to shower, shave, we're brushing our teeth, we're fresh and clean. We want to avoid strong odors. If you are a smoker, try to avoid smoking. However, I would rather you have a cigarette than be really struggling with your nerves. Sorry, not your nerves, with your shaking. Give yourself plenty of time. Take an umbrella, take mints, those types of things, and get to the location 30 to 40 minutes early. But don't arrive at reception. Don't rock up to reception 40 minutes before your interview. Maybe wait downstairs or in your car and arrive at reception 5 to 10 minutes before. Now, take to the interview. We need to take with us a compendium. So there's a photo of a compendium on the screen there now. You can buy one of these from Officeworks or your local news agency for $20 or $30. And by taking this along, you look really professional. Looks professional having this under your arm. I always take a compendium to any business meeting I have. I also take a compendium to any interview. But as well as looking good, it has a practical application. So everything listed below there, you should have in your resume. We want copies of our resume, cover letter, and elevator pitch, just in case. We want some questions written down, a bit like when we're making the call. Let's take some questions we can ask, and yes, you can do this. We want a copy of the ad. Always take along photo ID and payroll information, even if you haven't been asked, just in case when you get there, the recruiter asks you if you've got it and was expecting you to have it, even though they haven't asked, and anything else. So use a compendium. Take this along with you. All right, video interviews. That's what's happening at the moment. How do we best prepare for a video interview? Hi job seekers, James here from the Candidate Coach. One of the most common questions we've been receiving lately is around how to best prepare for a video interview. Due to the circumstances over the last 12 to 18 months, video interviews have become the most common way of meeting a candidate, replacing the in-person, face-to-face interview. So here are my top tips for what you need to do to make sure you are best prepared and presenting yourself as well as you possibly can when your interview is over video. So there's four main things that you really need to consider. The first thing is camera height. This is the biggest mistake that a lot of people make, is getting the height of their camera wrong. If you've got a laptop, for example, that is sitting on a desk, you need to lift it up. The camera should always be at eye height. You want to imagine the lens of a camera is the eyeball of a person. So if you are looking down at your laptop or your phone, it's going to look back up your nose. So keep the camera positioned at eye height. One of the great ways to do that is to buy a tripod, something like this. So if you don't have a tripod, it's well worth going out and spending the money. Here's another one that I've got here. This one in particular I find to be really, really good. These have both got lights which help, but this one here, you can adjust it to a full standing height if you like. And it's available for not much money from a retail store. The second thing that is really important is the lighting. So having the light shining on your face. You don't want to have light shining from behind you because that creates a lot of glare. So have the light shining on your face, sit with a window facing you so that you are looking nice and clear on camera. The third thing is audio. You need to be in a nice quiet space so your voice comes across clearly, so that you don't have to yell, so that the sound is not distorted. If you are using a laptop, make sure you check about the sound direction. Some microphones only record from directly in front, and if you tilt your head sideways, the audio quality can go down quite significantly. And the fourth thing is, remember to show some personality with video interviewing. A lot of people speak to a camera in a different way that they speak to a person. So again, look at the lens of the camera and imagine you're speaking to a person. Smile. Talk with your hands if that's what you do, but don't look around the room. If you're nervous, don't look down at your hands. Look at the camera and give an answer as if you were giving it to a person. This can be challenging, particularly if you are being asked to record answers and there's not actually a person that you are speaking to, but personality definitely comes through on video, so make sure you show yours. And with everything, practice. If you're not sure how you're going to present, or you think, I don't think this is going to work really well, set up your camera, hit record, and just speak to the camera. Talk, see how you look, and practice several times. This is going to be the new norm, or not the new norm, it is the norm for quite some time now, so it's really important that you understand how to best prepare for video interviewing. Good luck. Alrighty. How do we give great answers to interview questions? How do we actually give great answers to interview questions? This is one thing that job seekers, in my opinion, really don't like practicing. We don't like practicing giving answers. We might spend hours and hours and hours on our resume and cover letter and LinkedIn profile and other things, but we're really reluctant to spend a lot of time practicing interview answers, sometimes because we don't know whether our answers are good or not to begin with. So let's have a look. How do we give great answers to interview questions? Well, for behavioral-based questions, we're going to use the STAR technique. So the STAR technique is extremely common. You might have heard of it before. You can easily go and look up what I'm going to show you today. But because not everybody does, I want to share this with you. So the STAR technique, STAR stand for something. So it's a method of answering questions that's comprised of 4 steps. S is for situation. We're going to describe the situation and when it took place. T is the task. Explain the task and what was the goal. A is for action. Provide details about the action you took to attain this. And R is the result. We want to conclude here with the result of the action. So what actually occurred? Now, behavioral-based questions will often be, they will start with, can you give me an example of, or can you tell me about a time? What we're looking for here is we want to see, that's why it's called behavioral-based questions. We want to see what behaviors, what characters, what traits you've got, and how you handle the situation. Some behavioral-based questions will allow you to shine. They'll allow you to sell yourself. So it might be, tell me about a time when you provided great customer service. And if that's the case, you can use the STAR technique to talk about a time you created great customer service. Well, there might be a question, tell me about a time you worked in a team when the team didn't get along. Tell me about a time when you dealt with a customer who was unhappy. So just because the question is asking you for a circumstance that wasn't great doesn't mean that you can't give a great answer. So let's go into detail with the STAR technique then. So the S, we want to set the scene. Set the scene of the story by giving the context and the background of the situation. If you're asked about teamwork, your response should include the project details, who you were collaborating with, when you undertook the project, and your location at the time. So what a lot of people do here is they skip through too many of the details too quickly when giving an answer. Candidates generally feel that they need to answer questions quickly, whereas we would like you to set the scene with the situation. Task, we need to describe your exact role. Your exact role. What was it that you did in the situation? We want to make sure that the manager knows what you were specifically assigned to do rather than what everyone else did. So for S for situation, you can talk about where's the team, but T for task is about you. All right, A is the most important part of the story. This is the action. So here you explain how you handled the difficult situation or you conquered the problem. Say whether you did it alone or together as a team. What you're trying to communicate is your assessment of the situation and your response to the problem, as well as how you got the team involved. So what did you actually do here? Share as many details as possible, as it says, so the interviewer can follow you. As you do so, avoid acronyms and avoid company-specific jargon. And then R is the result. So what happened? What was the conclusion? Close the story by stating the positive outcome of your actions and what lessons you learned. If possible, quantify the results and show the effects of your actions. Examples may include a 10% increase in sales, getting repeat business, or saving your team 5 hours of work in a week. So let's have a look at an example here. So this is an example for a nurse going for an interview for a nursing role. And the nurse is asked, describe a time when you handled a difficult situation at work. How did you react? So, situation. In my last as a night nurse, one of my colleagues quit after securing a job with a top private hospital. Though I was managing a ward full of patients, task, I was assigned to this one patient who didn't want to be admitted. He wanted to bolt out of the room. I made myself available. This is the action. I made myself available to the patient, discussed with him the reason he was being admitted, and assured him he would receive 24/7 attention and good care. The patient finally calmed down and agreed to spend the next 3 days under observation. And the result in purple was he was discharged on the 3rd day. And the wife personally thanked me for handling someone she knew to be extremely stubborn and difficult. So S is in red, task is in blue, action is in green, result is in purple. That's how we use the STAR technique. All right, let's say we're out of the interview now. So we don't actually finish with what we're doing in terms of our interview process. I'd really encourage you to email the recruiter, thank them for their time the following day. And if you've been asked to do anything, this is really important. If you have been asked to do anything, you might be asked to send through your reference details. You might be asked to go and complete a test. You might be asked to send through an example of some work. Do it straight away. The clock is ticking. The quicker you do it, the more impressed the recruiter will be. Be responsive. Be responsive here. Alrighty, so we're getting towards the end of today's workshop, but what I want to talk about is how to actually negotiate a higher salary offer. Let's say there's a hypothetical situation. You are hoping for $60,000. $60,000. You've been offered $55,000. So you've got a decision to make here. You've got 3 choices really. Accept the 55, decline the 55, or try to negotiate the 55 up towards 60. So when we're negotiating salary offers, in many ways, what we're really saying is, show me the money. We are wanting more money. We need to be able to ask, though, in the right way. So first of all, before we even ask, we need to do our research and find out, is this a negotiable salary? If you are applying for a job, for example, at a government organization, it's not negotiable. If you are applying for a customer service role in a bank and there's 500 people already doing that job, the salary is not negotiable. So if you try to negotiate a salary that is fixed, you are going to look foolish. We also need to do our research to know what is the market rate for the position. So it is all well and good that we want $60,000, but what are the other jobs paying? Are they paying $60,000? Or is actually $55,000 actually what the market is paying? We need to do our research before we negotiate. We then need to build a case. So we need to show what we are talking about. So what we would do is, first of all, we would always be very grateful. We would say, thank you very much for the offer of $55,000. I enjoyed the interview and I would love to accept this offer. However, I'm really seeking $60,000 and this is why. And what we would answer to the this is why is, I've got more experience than you're looking for. I've got more qualifications. I was paid more than this in my last job. I'm bringing more than what you were asking. So we can't just say, thanks for 55, I want 60. We've got to build a case. We've got to show that we know what we are talking about and why we want that money. And we need to demonstrate why you are worth more than the offered salary. Why are we worth more than that? As I said, maybe on the ad they said we want someone with 2 years experience and you got 4. Maybe you've got a degree and it's not asked for. Maybe you'll bring other things to the job. And finally, we negotiate in a firm but friendly manner. You need to expect that if you come to negotiate a salary offer, it could be retracted. It could be retracted. In my recruitment history, I have had 2 types of people when it comes to companies, when it comes to negotiation. Some companies will say they want to negotiate. No way. We've given them a fair offer. If they don't want to work here, we'll remove that offer. That could happen. I've also got organizations that say they want to negotiate. That's fine. Happy to negotiate. It's all part of the process. The concern is you don't know who you're dealing with. And so you do need to be prepared that an offer can be retracted. And if, the impression sometimes that you can easily give when negotiating a salary offer is that you aren't grateful. Sorry, not that you aren't grateful. Well, you aren't grateful and you're just not sure on the job. Now, if you are still wanting more assistance with your job seeking, can I really encourage you to go to your candidate coaching platform and check out all of these resources that you'll see on your screen there now. We've got video coaching, resume and cover letter templates, interview questions, online practice tests that you can take, checklists, articles, advice for executive candidates, mental health support, more of our live workshops advertised, and this is all available to you for free on your candidate coaching platform. Before I go today, we would love your feedback. We would absolutely love to hear from you. Please, if you can take a moment, whoops, wrong screen there. If you can take a moment, all one word, follow our LinkedIn page and you will keep up to date with all of our events and our new features. Finally, we're going to finish today with this video. I really want to thank you for joining me for this workshop today. Our final video is potentially our most important thing that you're going to see today. We're going to hear from Dr. Sarah Barker again on how you can look after your mental health when you're looking for work. Because one thing that we've noticed from candidates of all backgrounds, all countries, all nationalities, all walks of life, all positions of seniority in the workplace is that when you come to look for work, it really can affect your mental health. So thank you for joining me today. The workshop will conclude at the end of this video. Enjoy the rest of your day.
If you're not feeling terrific at the moment and you feel like your mental well-being has taken a little bit of a dip, please remember this is not going to last forever. There's lots you can do to manage your mental health and get back on top of it. I am Dr. Sarah Barker. I'm a clinical psychologist. I've worked in workplace mental health with Black Dog Institute for the past 7 years. I work with a lot of adults and young people, mainly with anxiety, depression, trauma as well, a range of issues, and many who are looking for work and undergoing that process of trying to find employment. Looking for work causes mental strain because our identity is tied up with our work. Work gives us meaning, it gives us purpose, it gives us company and connection. So it's stressful for lots of reasons looking for work, and it can take a toll on our mental health. It's really important for us to be aware of the signs that our well-being and our mental health might be dropping. Probably the biggest sign is changes in behaviour. So that might be changes in the way we're thinking or talking to ourselves. We might be saying things like, who would employ me? I'll never get a job. We might be really down on ourselves and really hard and critical on ourselves when normally we're not so hard and critical. We might also, in our relationships, change our behaviour. We might be more snappy or more irritable with people that we love, that normally we might be a little bit irritable sometimes, but not irritable in that way. Losing interest in things that usually sparked us and ignited us and gave us joy. So perhaps usually we like walking the dog and suddenly we start thinking, I can't be bothered walking the dog today. That sort of thing, those changes in behaviour are really significant because they tell us that something's different, and if we're noticing, I suppose, more than one of those and it's affecting the way we feel, and this is over a period of say 2 weeks or longer, then it's a really good idea to have a chat to a GP that you trust, and find out what might be going on, have a discussion and see if there's any physical reasons for that, or if perhaps your mental health and well-being might be able to do with a little bit of extra support, and then the GP can refer you on to see a psychologist, a counsellor, whoever is most appropriate for you. There are so many great things you can do to look after your mental health when you're looking for work, and it's really important that you do. My very top tip would be really talking kindly to yourself and being compassionate with yourself. I think when we're looking for work, we can have a lot more questions like, will I ever get a job? Will I ever be employed? It can feel like this could go on forever. So being kind to ourselves and saying things like, it will work out. There will be a day, my efforts will be rewarded. It will just take time. I just need to keep trying. Reminding yourself of your strengths. And that might even be tapping into people you love and asking them what your strengths are, because sometimes it's harder to find them when our mood's a bit low and we're feeling more worried. We can be harder on ourselves. I think that routine is really, really important to our well-being. When we're looking for work, we mightn't have such a regular routine because there mightn't be a 9 to 5 start and finish time for a job, or there isn't. So instead, thinking about looking for work as a job in itself can be helpful. Having a start time and a finish time can be really helpful, and some set tasks that you hope to achieve that day. Purpose is really important too. So purpose might come through routine, but it can also come through other things. Meaning's really important, and our work gives us meaning. So when we're looking for work, meaning mightn't feel like it's there as much. Part of what we can do is infuse those tasks with meaning. So I am doing these things today, I'm looking for work, and that is meaningful in itself because there's an end goal to this. It will be something that's good for me and good for the people that I love as well. Some excellent resources for looking after well-being when looking for work are the Headgear app. The Headgear app is free, it's evidence-based, it's developed by Black Dog Institute, and it is fun to use. It uses mindfulness, so a technique to really help us relax and reduce physiological arousal, which can often occur when we're feeling anxious. It's got a 30-day challenge, which is just short, bite-sized little challenges to extend your well-being and grow your well-being, and that can be really extra important when we're looking for work. There are also some really terrific resources available through the Black Dog Institute. One of them is a beautiful self-care plan that encourages you to think about your top coping tips, the things that personally work best for you, that are positive coping strategies. Another really good resource is through Beyond Blue, and they've got some excellent resources to look after mental health while looking for work, and also when people are recently out of work as well. Probably time to seek professional assistance when you notice your mood is lower and you're feeling more down than usual, when you're worrying more and perhaps worrying excessively about things that you wouldn't normally worry about, and perhaps in your relationships too, when you're more tense with people and perhaps more snappy or irritable. All of these are signs that perhaps our mood is not in the greatest space, and our well-being is not in the greatest space, and that it can be a great idea then to chat to your GP, who can then refer you to an appropriate person to help you strengthen your well-being. It's very common for people to have a dip, but please know that that's not going to last forever, and that there's lots you can do through looking after yourself, but also through getting access to professional support that can really give you a boost again and get you back feeling good as you're looking for work.